Welcome to another riveting episode about the CAO of the municipality, our municipality in this case. It is Friday the 13th, and this is episode 12. So happy Friday the 13th to you. And 12 episodes in, 80 plus to go. I'm talking about the CAO, one of the most misunderstood roles in our municipality. And I don't want to spend too much time catching you up here because we try to keep these videos fairly reasonably short. See the videos the last few days if you're wondering what is a CAO, why is a CAO, how did it come into being, and how does that person get their powers vested by council. We have been covering that. But seeing as the role is so crucial, I wanted to talk today about why it's so important to evaluate the CAO's performance. And who does that? Who best to evaluate the performance? A lot of time in town when residents are frustrated with the performance of, a lot of time we don't know who to blame. We just look at the roads, we look at the parks, we look at the facilities, and staff work so hard in the way that they're directed with the budget they have to do the things they do. And ultimately, it is the CAO that runs and manages the entire staff. But with that role being so crucial, who do they report to and how is that evaluated? So I wanted to ask you if that model we're talking about where you have your council and your mayor who function as one body together. There's no I in council. There's only we. So if you have that council, their evaluation happens definitely out of public opinion. And it happens every election, I would say every 4 years, but with amalgamation and things, it has been more recent than that, but the last election was 2022, so it's been 4 years. And that means that you have a say in who sits at the board of this municipal boardroom table, essentially. And so with that decision being made by the residents, who's sitting at the council table, then we have the apolitical person who is managing all the staff, but also advising the council with their municipal expertise. How do we evaluate that person and who best to do it? I'm borrowing a lot here from George Cuff's excellent book, The CAO, if you're interested in really getting into the weeds. But he suggests, he kind of goes through some of the options that other municipalities have tried to their own detriment. So the first thing he says is, yes, some municipalities might think that hiring an outside consultant is good to evaluate the CAO, the manager of all the staff. The issue with that and the shortcoming of that is, of course, they do not deal with the CAO day in, day out, meeting in, meeting out, emails back and forth. They don't know. So they'd have to come in, and yes, they are impartial, but then they have to do all the investigation around what the CAO does, how they do it, interview all the councilors, etc. And it's just not ideal in that sense, because you, as that consultant, have to come in and totally get your bearings. And it's frankly could be considered a squandering of municipal budget, because of course you'd have to pay a consultant to do that. The other thing that municipalities have tried is a committee of council. So a few people on council evaluating the CAO. He says basically that this might be a good idea when you have very large councils of 12, 15, some municipalities have a lot of councilors, and the process can be muddy when it is such a huge group of people. But basically that committee then needs to still go around and make sure the input of every single person on council is considered. Because all those counselors are going to be evaluating, how they were treated, whether the CAO was open, whether they were respectful, whether they were responsive, if they're accomplishing the goals that that particular counselor would like to achieve for their ward, their riding, their residents, the things that they're hearing, etc. So a committee doesn't really work in a small setting like St. Stephen, where we are going to have 6 counselors and a mayor. Another thing that some communities have tried is to have the direct reports, the department heads of the staff, the municipal staff, evaluate the CAO. You can imagine how this is not ideal, because when you have people who are under you in the hierarchy evaluating you, that could lead to a lot of, Monday morning suspicion, who said what on the performance review when it comes out, or the opposite, kind of staff members sucking up to, hey man, I'm going to say only good things, and others, I bet you, I know who said the bad thing, that kind of thing. So you don't want to cause that kind of disparity and suspicion and a fragmenting happening on the staff. You want to keep everybody united and moving in the same direction, and there's no reason to introduce that kind of friction. Another thing that municipalities have tried is the mayor. The mayor evaluates the CAO. Here's the issue with that. The mayor and the CAO need to have a very close working relationship. Sometimes that goes well in municipalities, and the mayor and the CAO, in fact, are a little bit too close, and the experience of councillors and the CAO is different than the mayor and the CAO. So if the mayor and the CAO are thick as thieves, and the mayor is the only one responsible for evaluating the CAO, again, it could be slap on the back, hey bro, we don't really need to do your performance evaluation quite so seriously. I think you're doing a good job. No need to split hairs here, etc. The council could be saying, what's going on? I'm not having that great experience. Conversely, what if the mayor absolutely has it out for the CAO, can't stand the CAO, and then kind of just writes them up whole cloth saying, here's my perspective, I think this CAO needs to be turfed. And the council could be saying, well, hold on, let's be a little bit more objective about that. There is no I on this team. I keep saying that, but it is the council as a whole who work with the CAO, and the council as a whole, of course, there are individuals on that team, but no one person should be deciding what, the fate of the CAO or how the CAO is performing, because it is going to be the aggregate of all those people working together and experiencing the CAO together. So you can imagine by this point now what George Cuff recommends, and the best way to do it, avoiding all those pitfalls, is the council as a whole evaluates the CAO, every single member individually, including the mayor. This is typically facilitated by the mayor, and so that's why you can imagine the scenario that I just described to you. The mayor should not be doing the performance review, but the mayor facilitates the performance review of the CAO by sitting down with each councillor and this is where I'm going to roll into tomorrow, using a very rigorous rubric, an evaluation tool that can objectively take, very uniform data, feedback, opinions, questions asked of every single counselor equally, and then round it up. And when the evaluation is conducted, all counselors are at the table, none excluded, and that's why, that's how they measure the fairness, the impartiality of the process, and everybody's feedback is considered for that CAO, and that is done, of course, with the CAO present, using, as I said, it's not like a firing squad, it is using an evaluation tool mutually on both sides. So tomorrow I want to introduce to you what a tool like that will look like for the CAO, what I would like to see used. And I know there is a performance review process in the current administration, but yesterday I talked about what a tightrope walk, what a demanding job it is to be the CAO. And, we got to also talk about how crucial it is that the mayor, I don't mean to say we got to talk about, we have been talking about, I'm not going to talk more about it, don't worry. We have been talking about how crucial it is that the mayor and the CAO have a very functional relationship, because the mayor is that speaking, that touch point, that spokesperson for the council, and the CAO is the spokesperson and direct report for the staff. So ultimately, George Cuff says, the evaluation, a performance review should be conducted by the people to whom that person being evaluated has that direct report line relationship. And that is the council. The council always functions together as a full team. So like I said, let's talk tomorrow. Tomorrow's likely going to be the last video in this series. But like I say, I think it's really important for you to understand the CAO and understand that it's not, just do whatever you want. And it's also not order around the CAO. It is directing, and the decisions are made by council, and the CAO carries out the how of all those tasks and decisions that are made by the council on your behalf. So we want a very functional municipal government after May 11th, right? We want a very functional council and staff. That is how we are going to see improvements in our municipality. And so just very practically, explore the candidates who are running and ask yourself, is this someone who can lead a team objectively like this? Is this someone who we feel has grievances? If you want to vote for the grievance candidates, you're more than willing to do so if you think that will get things done. I think the way that we will get things done is a very functional, healthy team working together and understanding where power and authority is and how to evaluate each other objectively and with fairness. All right, that's it for today. I hope you have a great weekend, but I'm not wishing you a good weekend, meaning I'm not going to be here. I'm going to be back tomorrow, Saturday, to talk to you about that evaluation tool so you can see very practically what kind of criteria are used for that. Have a wonderful day. Check out buildupststephen.ca, my website, for more of my commitments and priorities and the action plan. Feel free to comment on this video. I do get feedback, and I appreciate it, and that helps me talk in future videos about things that you want me to talk about. Have a wonderful day, and take care of yourself, your neighbor, and let's build up St. Stephen. Cheers.